We're in the 06010. Focus. Fantasy Focus.
Hello and welcome to Fantasy Focus Football, presented by Boost Mobile. I'm Liz Loza, in for Daniel Dobb, here with my friends Field Yates and Stephania Bell. Happy Tuesday, guy. Regular Tuesday, right? Nothing different here.
Nothing different. You know, you're in the host chair, which I am loving.
Yeah, Thank you.
We may have just one baseball game left tonight, so now is the timely opportunity to describe, maybe to the viewers that don't know, a little something about the history of Wally Pipp.
No. You stole my line. I was like,
Daniel
this
Dobb.
might happen.
Yeah, Daniel Dobb, you are officially on notice. You know, Daniel takes one day to go take care of some stuff that he needs to for life, and we're already replacing him.
Though. I'm happy to sub in for my buddy.
Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here. You guys, we had a rousing football game to watch on Monday night.
I must have missed that one.
Were you guys not cued in to the football game?
You know, I did
mention the World Series happening at the same time.
Yeah, there was a replay of a game on NFL Network last night from like 4 years ago.
Was it the Bears-Commanders game?
No comment. No comment. Listen, you're the Bears fan here. You're not allowed to like. I mean, if you want to relive that pain, you can. But I wasn't going to go there.
It was so exciting that the pain. You know, sometimes you need a little pain to appreciate how far you've come. You can't be comfortable if you've never felt discomfort. Field.
What perspective you have? That's great. That's Navy SEALs type stuff. You know, they talk about full benefit in Navy SEALs. You know, when you hit adversity, is an opportunity for growth and learning and improvement going forward. And I'll be honest with you, I have tried to subscribe to that this year in fantasy football, slightly less consequential than what the stuff that Navy SEALs go through. But I appreciate your perspective on a heartbreaking defeat on Sunday afternoon.
Well, I think the Giants could understand that same sort of perspective because, wow, that was rough.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It was tough. And the Giants offense, I saw this from Mike Clay last night. Maybe it was this morning. But they are now averaging 1.25 offensive touchdowns per game, guys. 32nd in the NFL.
Is that bad? Because it sounds bad.
I think it's back to back to back, or 3 out of the past 4 years. They have ranked 30th or worse. They just are so devoid of consistency in the offensive side of the ball. But they do have some playmakers. Like, at least let's talk positive from this game. Positive with an asterisk.
Positive with an asterisk. So I know where you're going.
You want to deliver the end, like the punchline, before I get to the analysis, Stephania? Tyrone Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, we can at least start with the positive in the fact that he, I think, outperformed even what our expectations would be.
He's the man in the backfield.
He is clearly the man in the backfield. We talked about the potential for him and how good he's looked. And that, you know, we talked a few weeks ago about Tyrone Tracy waiver wire, like, go and get him. Hopefully you did, because he delivered last night. I was just looking. He is, I think, 7th on the week in running backs in points scored, which is impressive. Unfortunately, the asterisk you referenced, he left with a head injury last night.
Late in the game.
Very late in the game. And look, whenever you see the other players' teammates waving for the medical staff to come on, it tells you that they know right away. And these guys see injuries all the time.
Totally.
But they immediately decide, no, this is something we want you to come in for. So he did walk off under his own power, escorted by the medical staff. But we didn't get much more because it was so late in the game. He did appear to also injure his shoulder a little bit earlier, right before the first half, and it came back and was strong after that, and then unfortunately until the head injury.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, just a dominant workload role. This is a true workhorse role right now for Tyrone Tracy Jr. when healthy. Keep in mind, they have one fewer day this week to get healthy because they play, of course, again on Sunday. So I presume he will be in the concussion protocol when practice begins for the Giants tomorrow. If he is not available, Devin Singletary, the next man up, not nearly the same upside as Devin Singletary, but Singletary as Tyrone Tracy Jr. But he does slot into a flex-ish role in fantasy football purposes. But if Tracy is back, this guy's got all the makings of a top 20 running back going forward. Incredible rushing last night with a banged-up Giants offensive line. 4 separate carries of 10-plus yards, 20 total rushes for 145 yards. One of the reasons why he went a little bit lower in the draft than the talent you see last night would suggest is not only because he plays running back, but also he played for 6 years in college.
And he was injured over the summer.
Yeah, so he's 24. Meaning the real NFL draft.
Yeah.
So he was 24 as a rookie. Like, how many teams are drafting 24-year-old rookies?
Not my clay
higher than
teams.
that? Yeah. And real NFL teams as well. But a good-looking player. I think that was, the most notable takeaway from the Giants last night. If you're sitting here and you're disappointed by the fact that Malik Nabers had only 14.1 fantasy points, don't look at it that way. Look at it more of where
How
you
in
drafted
the
him at such
world
a
did
great
he-
discount.
How in the world did he get 14.1 fantasy points on an offense that's not really producing?
Yeah,
I
totally.
think that's what you have to look
But a
at.
35.1% target share once again for Malik Nabers. Clearly the wide receiver one in this offense and arguably the wide receiver one still in fantasy football. A top 5 option basically every single week. A lot of that came late because they were stuck in the mud for a lot of
And
that
they're gonna
game
be.
early. That could be, but the Steelers defense does more to deter opposing wide receivers than most matchups the Giants will face every week going forward. But I would take that as a sign. Like if you're like, I only got 14.1 from Malik Nabers, think about where you drafted him and you're like, dang, I only got 14.1.
exactly.
Tells you how special this guy is.
7 of 13, so the volume is certainly there, but third week in a row without a touchdown, obviously hamstrung by the quarterback under center, which is going to be a giant conversation moving forward. Week 10, by the way, NFC East showdown between the white-hot first-placed Washington Commanders. Washington Commanders are 6-2 right now. I don't know why I'm so excited. I'm very excited
No,
about
I was going to
Washington
say, you've got
Commanders.
the well, your husband's from D.C.
He is.
So is he a Commanders fan?
Oh my gosh, long suffering.
Okay. Well, maybe
but-
he gets his moment then.
Regardless, I think there will be a lot of more opportunities for Neighbors to continue to eat and flirt with double-digit targets again, given the matchup next week. All right, let's talk about Russell Wilson, the quarterback who is, for fantasy purposes, did not perform at the same level he had in week 7, but he still did elevate this offense.
I was gonna say, the takeaway to me is not that like Russ is a quarterback I'm particularly interested in. By the way, 10 rushing yards in 2 games for Russell Wilson.
Well,
so that facet of his game is largely gone.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't. Let's not forget, he entered the season with the Achilles /calf, and
We didn't know if that was real, though.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, maybe you knew. I don't know if I bought it.
You combine that with the age and sort of what we saw from productivity, and you didn't really think the rushing Russell Wilson. You just hope the scrambling is still there to be able to extend plays, and I think to an extent that's there. But to me, I think we were talking about this yesterday. It's not necessarily the quarterback that intrigues me, but what can he do for the star player on the team? What can he do for George Pickens? And
Can we talk about this?
Alvin Austin,
I
too.
think this is indisputable. George Pickens is the most must-see player in the NFL.
electric.
Every game he plays, he's going to.
Electric.
But and
kind of
electric.
crazy,
Everything that
acrobatic
could possibly
catch.
happen. Yeah, we had to go to the rule book last night because
Yes.
George Pickens managed to get the same foot in
Yes.
twice, but didn't have 2 feet in. So one touchdown was called back because of that rule.
Yeah.
Another touchdown called back due to penalty. He had like a WWE move late in the game.
know.
Like
He did.
he's the most must-see guy in
I
TV
would
because
like
you never know what you're going to get.
file a formal petition for whoever's watching Rules Committee. It is harder to get the same foot down twice. I mean, that takes balance and control. You talk about controlling the football to the ground. Balance and control, getting hit, hopping on that right foot twice, and then getting pushed out of the end zone and no score as a result.
Yeah, it's
So it doesn't. Does the rule really read? You must get
Both
right and left feet. It says 2 feet, does it not?
I guess
it does say 2 feet.
we need to decide whether it's both or 2, right?
It's just sort of interesting that you have to get 2 feet, but like one elbow is good.
Yeah.
It just, the whole thing
I
is-
know. I would like to. I think we could use that in the summer. How often does it happen? Probably not enough that if you yield that,
Yeah.
it's not going to be that consequential. But anyway, George Pickens continues.
Pickens
to
investors
impress.
very happy with the return of Russell Wilson, even if Justin Fields managers aren't necessarily. Regardless, we won't see any of these players this coming week because they are on bye in week 9.
Team's on a bye, yeah.
A little bit of something to add, though. Per Mike Clay's strength of schedule ranking, Russell Wilson will have the 5th easiest / best strength of schedule moving forward. So that does also obviously elevate the rest of the offense.
And shout out to everybody who is a close personal friend of Calvin Austin because you got 2 touchdowns last night.
Yeah.
And you're probably the only people that actually started him, but shout out to you. Maybe some Scott Fishbowl boost as well for those of you that listen
yeah.
to play because, of course, return yardage is a big thing, but the Steelers' special teams are ridiculous. And Chris Boswell, man, continues his steady run as kicker 1 this year.
That is amazing, and we are happy for them.
Yeah, I mean, we are the podcast that is the definitive word on all things kickers. So I
there
wanted
you
to
go.
make sure we got that in. Yeah.
Well, we
All
know
right,
how I
coming
feel
up
about
next,
kickers.
we are answering the bell with the latest injury updates heading into Week 9. Welcome back to Fantasy Focus. Liz Loza, Field Yates, and Stephania Bell. And we are answering the bell. Stephania's going to give you
here.
all
Grab
you
a
need
book
to
and
know
my phone.
No,
about
don't
the
do
injuries.
that.
I have plenty to
I
say.
want
Let
you
Field take a
involved.
break. He gave you an awesome special teams nug in that last segment. So now it's you and me, lady.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Where do you want to start?
We can start with Drake May, who reportedly suffered his first documented concussion on Sunday.
I like that we use documented now because we really don't know until
I know you're
you know what information you come into the league with, and we could get into what subconcussive hits are and all of that, but we won't. Drake May left in the second quarter with a helmet to. Actually, he kept playing. Appeared to suffer a helmet to helmet hit. And it wasn't until a little bit later that he then went out of the game, was ultimately ruled out. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett came in. I think it's just important to remember that there are 5 phases in this concussion protocol once a player goes into it before returning. And so we don't have to go through it in detail. It's available on the NFL Health and Safety page if anyone wants to look it up. But essentially, you have to move through being asymptomatic through progressive levels of increasing activity. That includes return to practice, being cleared for contact, and ultimately clearance from an independent neurological consultant. The reason I mention it today as being relevant is because the Patriots play on Thursday night.
Ooh, they do.
And so,
No, they don't.
oh, they don't?
They're traveling to
Sunday.
Tennessee.
I had Pats at Titans in my notes, and I read Pats Thursday.
Oh,
So
you know what?
my
Thankfully,
eyeballs.
it's okay. Thankfully for
brain.
America, we don't.
That's why
get
I need you to
Patriots
pay
Titans
attention.
Thursday. Yeah.
Seeing if everyone,
He
you know
did,
how
though.
they do
He
in
did. He
school
got
when they
you.
say, "Are you paying attention?" I just did that to see if you were paying attention.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Traveling to
still
Nashville.
relevant. Traveling to Nashville, and if he's going to get clearance, we'll know because when they travel, then we know if the player is going to accompany them or not. So look, it's not the worst thing in the world to have a week's time. We've seen most quarterbacks come back within 7 days, but we also talk about these being nonlinear.
I will save my Drake May thoughts until we get to the waiver section, and I'll obviously bring the injury
okay.
context in there. But he has my attention, does young Drake May.
Thursday Night Football is Texans at the Jets, in case
That's
you were
correct.
wondering.
That's
It's
correct.
going to be etched in my brain permanently.
Honestly, it's
now.
the Jets are the George Pickens of teams. You have to watch them because you don't know what you're going to get, but you're going to get something that's compelling.
Well,
I knew
maybe not as
somebody
many
was in
circus
trouble.
catches, though.
Yeah, but not Jets fans don't like watching the Jets.
That's true.
But those of us that aren't Jets fans are entertained by them.
The
one way or the
acrobatics
other.
are all emotional when watching the
One
Jets.
way of describing it. Yeah.
Jordan Love also suffered an injury. He was forced out of the second half at Jacksonville with a groin issue. He is currently day-to-day. MRI revealing it's a strain. I don't know what that means. Can you contextualize it, please, expert?
Well, I think there's a couple things here because did you guys watch Jordan Love at all? He got
I
hit
love watching the
early,
Packers. Favorite thing for me.
and it looked like he was uncomfortable, and he kind of stuck in there and kept playing for a while, and then ultimately took a hit in the third quarter. That he only took the first snap of the third quarter and then left the game. It was interesting because after the game, LaFleur said he had serious concern about him, and part of it was the worry about the inability for a quarterback to protect himself. You remember when Jordan Love had his MCL injury when they played the opener in Brazil, and one of the things about bringing him back, they didn't put him on injured reserve because they thought the injury, surprising enough given the way it looked, was not so serious that it would keep him out the full 4 weeks. But the criteria for him returning was always, can he protect himself? You want a quarterback to move well enough to do that. They started seeing Sunday that he could not. So they were concerned about the severity. Comes back, it's not that severe of an issue, but it still can be limiting. I think what's really interesting is given the MCL injury that he had previously, we sometimes see these compensatory soft tissue injuries around it. So groin is a stabilizer. It has a lot to do with how you move laterally and medially, also, as does the MCL. So I don't know if this is tied to that in any sort of subtle way, but definitely when you've had that injury in week 1 and you have this happen again, you have to be careful with it. There is a chance that he could be available to play. However, Green Bay has a bye in week 10. So if you're at all concerned about the health of your quarterback and you don't want to risk it, You don't put him out there this week.
I
You
don't
get
know,
the
man.
benefit
You're
of a bye
playing your
week.
division rival on Sunday, and there's
Yeah,
a tight race, 6-1 and 6-2.
I don't think they arbitrarily sit him, but I think if there's any level of concern and they go, do you hold back and wait a week? Then they do. They've already shown that they're willing to sit him in the interest of his long-term health.
Just a quick note in terms of the value of Jaden Reed, the pass catcher amongst the wide receivers that we have the most interest in. In his 2 games without Jordan Love, he was wide receiver 54 and wide receiver 42. He had a total of 6 catches for 59 yards on just 26 routes in those games. The Packers cannot run the football nearly as much on Sunday against the Lions as they did against those lesser teams when Malik Willis was playing. That being said, this is a big knock to the value of Jaden Reed and every other pass catcher if Jordan Love is out.
Well, as we've already established, the Texans are playing on Thursday.
Yeah, they are.
They are already
I'm gonna forget that now.
I got a funny text from Daniel, by the way, who said after Stephania's misreading of the play of the game on Thursday, hey, this is to me and Stephania. I've got an eye doctor you can visit to go clear up that vision, Stephania.
I know. My eye doctor's so proud of me saying right now, look, I have bifocal contacts. And it helps because I can read and see far, except for it's just the right distance. It's in between. Gets a little blurred.
I can't read. I should get myself some bifocal contacts.
We've all been there. I can't put my readers on with these fake lashes. So we're all playing hurt in
You
some way.
don't have that dilemma.
No.
Just be thankful.
I just can't read.
Well, I don't know if Stephon Diggs will be able to play because
dilemma.
he has a knee issue, non-contact knee issue. You never like to see that.
I know. And why do we never like to see that? Because usually a non-contact knee injury is, it's an instability issue. You see a guy plant. If you saw the video of Stephon Diggs when he planted, you see this little bobble, this little shift in the knee, which usually makes anyone who knows about these things worry about instability in the knee. I also am a little concerned that we haven't heard anything yet.
Agreed.
That D'Amico Ryans did not give an update yesterday. He was listed as a DNP because, again, we've established Texans are playing on Thursday night, so they had practice report on Monday. Obviously, you're planning on not having him for Thursday. That would be how I would plan right now. In the absence of information, I would plan that way. And as far as the severity of it, I don't want to catastrophize it until we have information. We don't have information, but are you concerned? Yes, you should be.
1 more week minimum without Nico Collins. John Mechie had 9 routes this past Sunday, 3 targets on 9 routes. So he, Robert Woods, Xavier Hutchinson are all going to have to absorb a bigger workload without Stephon Diggs. Hutchinson's playing a lot. He had just 1 target this past game.
Dalton Schultz also in play given the matchup against the Jets, I think. All right.
I was just going to say, I'm a little puzzled. I really like John Mechie as a player, and I thought he had better prospect coming out of college and setting up with the Houston Texans. Obviously, then had a bout with cancer, which, to credit to him and the team and how they handled it. But I feel like there's some untapped potential there.
Yeah, he's just been buried.
Really
Nico's emergence, Tank Dell's emergence, the
hoping
trade for Stephon Diggs. Yeah, this could be
opportunity.
Again, 3 targets on 9 routes this past weekend.
Pretty impressive. The Jacksonville Jaguars are struggling this season in many ways.
Player for the Jags.
Brian Thomas Jr. out with a chest injury. Christian Kirk probably done for the year with a collarbone fracture.
Definitely done for the year.
Okay.
Yeah, Christian Kirk, if you see a player go down on their shoulder, if they land on kind of the outer part of their shoulder, you think about 2 things. You think about an AC sprain if it's right on the point of the shoulder, or you think about something with the collarbone, the clavicle. In his case, if you saw his shoulder get folded forward, just the physics of it puts all the energy through the collarbone. His broken. Unfortunately, he's done for the year, but should be on track to be ready to go next year. Brian Thomas left in the second half after playing 29 snaps. Concerned for a rib and a multiple week issue, ends up coming back as a chest contusion, which is a deep bruise. And
better.
Peterson saying he's day to day, and there's an outside chance that he could be available. Not Peterson. I'm like, what is wrong?
Peterson, that's correct.
Oh my gosh. I am having
Peterson with a D.
brain
Peterson.
fade.
Was it Peterson?
Right here on
it wasn't
live
Urban
television.
Meyer, was it?
No,
he's a couple coaches ago.
We're through those days.
No, it was Peterson.
Did he say outside chance?
He said
he is being reported as day to day.
He has a chance to suit up this weekend.
Okay, good. I didn't know if when you said outside, I was thinking to myself, oh, that sounds outside sounds worse than just straight up chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was, Doug Peterson's pretty good about sharing. I mean, he was pretty honest with the Evan Engram thing, although they kept delaying it because they were being cautious with him.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do if they don't have Brian Thomas. Maybe it's more
Speaking of Evan Ingram.
I know. Maybe it's more of an Ingram.
Evan Ingram.
Don't forget Gabe Davis left with a shoulder injury.
He was banged up too. That's
yeah.
the point.
So he's not been, he didn't do anything before he left.
Right. Parker Washington is the next man up in the Christian Kirk role. 6th-round pick out of Penn State last year. Had that big punt return in London a couple weeks ago. He may be in for a bigger role because of 2 wide receivers being out. Again, Thomas, it sounds like maybe avoided a bad thing, but also may not be available this week.
Yeah, and also might be uncomfortable. Just if he does play.
Well, given all of this news, fantasy managers might also be uncomfortable, but we've got you with some waiver wire picks. Stay tuned. All right, and we are back on Fantasy Focus Football. Liz Loza, Stephania Bell, Field Yates, helping you wade through the waiver wire. Lots of W's right there. And we are going to lead off. We are going to lead off Week 9 waivers, and we've got you with your You Gotta Switch, brought to you by the new Boost Mobile 5G network. This week, you gotta switch to Cedric Tillman.
Dang right you do. How about Cedric Tillman over the past couple of weeks? So obviously they trade Amari Cooper, and you're saying to yourself, somebody has to stand to benefit in that Browns wide receiver room. Could Jerry Jeudy get going? The guy that they traded for and paid him like $17 million this offseason.
I haven't seen it.
Better last week than he was 2 weeks ago, but instead it's Cedric Tillman. Let's do like a crash course on who this guy is, right? Comes out of the draft, not this year, but the year prior. 3rd-round pick out of Tennessee, 6'4", 215 pounds. Got hurt during his final season of college. Not a ton of production, but you guys may recall, and I feel like anything that wasn't yesterday is like millions of years ago in my brain. But Tennessee, who's now very good, they had this season where they were on the rise a couple of years ago, and Cedric Tillman and also Jalen Hyatt were like the talk of the college football town. Tillman goes in the 3rd round. Kind of gets buried last year on the depth chart. Buried this year on the depth chart until the past couple of weeks. How does 21 targets sound over the past 2 weeks?
Like
Only
you're
David
not
and Joe
buried anymore.
Yeah, we know. Just to reiterate what I said yesterday about Jameis Winston on the podcast, 8 for 11 on throws 15 or more air yards down the field for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. You guys know that I don't necessarily love air yards because when it's guys who are getting air yards from bad quarterbacks, I don't really care. Right. It's like, it's just sweet. Marquez Valdez Scantling, whatever, 2.0. But this is a quarterback who's capable of throwing the football down the field. So I do like the air yards for Cedric Tillman in this case. Big play waiting to happen. The Browns played a competitive game last week that they won, but going into last week, they had trailed on the 5th highest percentage of their snaps this season. So what does that mean? Lots of throwing. The Browns play the Chargers this weekend. Might be more of like a
competitive game, closer game.
This could be like a 21-16 game as opposed to last week, which is higher scoring. But Tillman has me intrigued.
I believe the over-under right now is set at 40.5 for that game. So not exactly a barn burner in terms of point total.
It's true. He's only rostered in 16% of leagues.
That's true.
Number's got to flip to at least 61 this week.
Listen, I'm going to go sign up for him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was You Gotta Switch, brought to you by the new Boost Mobile 5G network. Moving on to some other top waiver wire ads. Let's talk about Xavier Legette.
You guys want to hear like a really dumb decision I made on Cedric Tillman, though?
Oh, sure. We're going to go back to it.
Yeah.
I'd like to feel better about
Field, you're going to talk about making a mistake? Let me get comfy. Hold on.
Did you not listen to the Anthony Richardson rant yesterday?
I think we were all there with you.
Yeah.
You took
No. That one, I'm taking that one on the chin. So for those that watch fantasy football now, on Sunday we do our long shots, right? And it's me versus Adam Schefter. We have to find a player who's available in at least 80% of leagues. Whoever scores more points in that week gets the win. And then we do golf style. So if I win in week 7, I get the tee in week 8. So I've been off to a rough start in long shots this year. I think I was 4-2-1 in the first 7 weeks, but I had Rashad Bateman in week 7, crushed it. And so I'm on the tee in week 8, and I'm going through the options, and it's like so obvious that Cedric Tillman is like the pick, right? And then you know what I do? Is I said, I need good content.
You got cute.
I said, I need to go to the best receiver in the NFL, Jake Bobo, and pick him instead. It was a vibes pick.
You got cute.
Vibes pick. And so I left Cedric Tillman for Adam Schefter, and no comment on how Jake's day went. Honestly, I do wonder if the Seahawks' day would have gone better if they targeted him more. Instead, they were doing crazy things. But anyways, I digress. Cedric Tillman went off, and I got smoked in long shots.
Can we talk about Xavier Legette now?
Sure, yeah, let's do that.
Well, should I say Jonathan Mingo 2.0?
Wow, not his fan?
I think that he's better than Jonathan Mingo in that he's a very similar player.
Yeah, so I mentioned him as like a potential priority ad for this reason. Found the end zone again, right? That was good this past week. Hit that horse celebration again. It's awesome.
He has one, I hear.
Yes. The best accent going in.
He does. He does. Oh my God.
I would love a horse, by the way. If anyone
hilarious.
wants to pitch in for a GoFundMe, Liz Loza would love a rescue horse.
Rescue horse.
I'm going to put it in my backyard in Los Angeles.
I have zero sort of sense of what does a horse cost. I'm sure it's a lot.
I have not investigated because it's not a possibility.
Yes.
Stephania
More
knows.
than your golden retriever.
Oh, wow. Okay. Fair enough. That's good to know. But one of the reasons why I wanted to mention is there are rumors flying right now about Deontay Johnson potentially being.
Yeah. Oh,
And maybe
target,
Adam
right?
Thielen too, right?
Yep. Adam Thielen, he's on IR. He still hasn't been activated to the 53-man roster, but I get the sense he's relatively close.
Feel like he's doing more.
Yeah.
More work, so to speak.
So, yeah. So, anyways, I just mentioned this one because if we found out today that Deontay Johnson was traded, and we also found out today that Andy Dalton was going to play this week, you'd feel better about Xavier Legette going.
You sure would.
Yeah.
Another rookie, Jalen McMillan in Tampa Bay, obviously thrived in the slot in college, so there was an expectation that he would take on that, at least a part of that Chris Godwin role. Was more efficient in week 8 than he was in week 7, so that's an improvement. Also out-targeted Sterling Shepard, which was a little bit of a question mark heading into the week, and McMillan is rostered in 41.7% of leagues. What are your thoughts on him?
You want to start this one off?
No. I like McMillan. I want you to start off because you had the Sterling Shepard Baker Mayfield, love connection from
romance.
previous, like this is his guy relationship wise. So I would like you to explain this.
So Shepard ended up getting hurt during that game, comes back to that game. So these numbers are not skewed totally, but McMillan stayed on the field and played. So the hierarchy that we saw, at least I saw it as going into week 8, was McMillan, Shepard, Trey Palmer. And so Shepard ends up getting hurt, but still, I believe, has 4 catches. Might have been 4 catches on 5 targets. But McMillan had 7
catches
targets.
on
3
5.
Catches. Okay, 3 on 5 for Sterling Shepard. 81% of the snaps for Jalen McMillan. 7 targets for Jalen McMillan. 88% of the routes run for Jalen McMillan. That was the most of every wide receiver on the Bucs from this past weekend. So it did bear out that, like, if you're going to roster one, it's probably Jalen McMillan out of these 3. And there was some meat left on the bone there. There were some missed opportunities with Jalen McMillan. It only takes one catch to kind of like re-alter the perception of what a week was. McMillan seemed to have established himself as the Bucs wide receiver we feel most confident in going into week 9, not forever because things change so fast. Bad matchup against Kansas City this week, but McMillan still a guy that I think should be added.
And we know that Baker Mayfield's going to have to put the ball in the air if he would like to stay competitive at Kansas City. I want to talk about a running back, Stephania. We know that the 49ers are going on bye, so you get to have a little more breathing room this week. But Isaac Guerrero is currently rostered in around 4% of leagues. Jordan Mason got knocked out of week 8. That AC joint injury was aggravated, so Guerrero came in. And as Kyle Shanahan's running backs often do, he crushed 14 carries, 85 yards, 1 touchdown, averaged over 6 yards per carry, also caught 3 of 4 for 17 receiving yards. I don't know with the rumors that Christian McCaffrey might come back in week 10, how much of a priority this will be. Obviously, there's another week for Mason to get healthy since they're on bye. So where are we prioritizing him?
Well, look, the role's going to change when McCaffrey comes back. And McCaffrey's coming back in week 10. I mean, if there's no setback, he will be back in week 10.
Okay, you heard it here
Plan
first.
is for him to... No, you don't know. You're not
celebrate.
allowed to celebrate the way 49ers fans.
Okay, you celebrate too, but have you seen? We'll talk about it in a minute. My Booty Cheeks Fantasy Focus Show League team.
I know.
Clap him. Make him clap.
God, geez, that team is. We'll talk about it. We are.
I know you
wounded.
and the rest of the nation of fantasy football managers who drafted Christian McCaffrey #1 overall. Just think how good he's going to be when he comes back. He is watching these games. He's been around the team. He's on the sidelines. You see him. I mean, think how he felt when he sees that Jordan Mason gets hurt, aggravates the AC sprain, as Liz mentioned. I mean, when you have an injury to the point of your shoulder and you're running back and all you do is take hits and take contact, there is a good chance that it will get aggravated. Now, Kyle Shanahan did say that he could have potentially re-entered the game. So in the severity world, not that much. But Shanahan also knew they had Isaac Guerrero, and we've seen a little bit of a hint of his flash already this season. So I think they were comfortable with, let him play, keep Jordan Mason healthy. Because as optimistic as they are about McCaffrey's return after the bye, they're going to apparently dial it up this week, make it much more intense in practice. But every step along the way, you have to then see how he responds to that, right? So we can have all these great intentions, but if everything doesn't go according to plan, it can change, right? It is a fluid process. There's not a date on the calendar where they're like, that's it, no matter what, he's back. The hope and the expectation is week 10. But they need a healthy Jordan Mason and they need Isaac Grando. I would be getting Jordan Mason because there's zero question if McCaffrey's not available, that's who is going to play. Yeah, exactly.
That's the part that I'm curious on is just with the way that Grando ran on Sunday night, whether he may be the back that you want to roster behind CMC. If something happens to CMC, maybe the reality is that if something happens with CMC going forward, that they would just lean more on two backs as opposed to basically making the Jordan Mason show unto himself.
Maybe, but they've never really done that. It's just not been their style. And as much as you would think the history and how much they've lost running back to injury would make that make sense. Yeah. I do think they also see one guy gets in and it gets hot and gets going, and that's who they're running with.
Yeah, Mason obviously has been cold, and some of that's been impacted by two separate games leaving with injury. But if in some world CMC is not available in week 10 and the messaging is still it's Jordan Mason is our starting back, he's going to be much lower in my rankings than he has been over the past handful of weeks.
Well, we know that, as you mentioned, Kyle Shanahan likes to lean on a primary ball carrier. And we also know, Stephania, as you have correctly pointed out many times, that CMC changes the entire offense, the complexion of it, particularly in the red area of the field. But what are your thoughts? And we may be getting ahead of ourselves, but I don't get to be here with you, so I'm going to ask you. Workload for CMC, just quickly, just tease it for me.
120% of the snaps.
Yeah, no, I think that's the danger, and Shanahan knows they have to check themselves because the temptation is going to be like go. Yeah. And I think there's always the feedback, right? You go in, you see how he does, how are you doing? You're checking in and checking out. But I don't think that they want to put him out there, have him play 97% of the offensive snaps, and then come back a day later, which is when you feel these things and go, oh boy. We flared this up. I think it's going to be a tough battle for them, but I don't think they can overuse him.
No, they're going to have to
They have to be smart.
And we are going to stay fresh as well when we come back. We're going quarterback hunting. Stay with us to find out who is worth adding heading into week 9. And we're back on Fantasy Focus Football. Liz Loza, Field Yates, Stephania Bell. We are quarterback hunting because Brock Purdy and Russell Wilson are on bye. Anthony Richardson, we have moved past. And C.J. Stroud, well, he's been mid.
Yeah, by the way, Anthony Richardson might be benched this week.
Yeah.
By the time you guys see this, we won't know because it's a Tuesday. So the head coach.
Everything's in play, isn't it? They said something like that. Yeah.
And that's one of those where, as the head coach, for those that didn't see it, Shane Steichen, the Colts head coach, was asked flatly yesterday, hey, is Anthony Richardson going to start this week? And he said, everything is being discussed. And so that's one of those where as the head coach,
not a definitive.
The answer is absolutely yes. You take the layup and you say, yeah, of course. It's starting to look that way. And, it's a fast, again, I got a lot off my chest yesterday, stunk, still bummed about it.
As a football fan, we can be bummed, though. Fantasy is one thing, but also was incredible to see this really athletic, strong-armed rusher paired, by the way, with a play caller that was supposed to be good at doing that, who had worked with Jalen Hurts and could. I was
going to say, it's a bit reductive to say this is just Jalen Hurts 2.0, but your thought process is, okay, you got this highly athletic guy who's going to kind of put it together more and more as a passer. Yeah. Playing with Shane Steichen, who helped Jalen Hurts break out. So swing and a massive miss.
And overcome those misconceptions that he wasn't a solid passer. Regardless, this is not the Anthony Richardson therapy session, though it has turned into one.
We do meet day.
We meet Mondays at 2 for those that are interested. We're in the room right off the cafeteria.
We got Dixie cups.
Group too.
Yep. Yeah. We can talk about, though, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Matthew Stafford, Drake May, and Jameis Winston. Field of the quarterbacks I have just listed, or that you can see here on this graphic. Who would you go after?
I got two, and I got two that may surprise you because they're both rookies. Bo Nix, let's start there. Bo, who, by the way, now has 20-plus fantasy points in 3 of his past 4 games. As we know, he is a factor with his legs. He had just 5 carries for 4 rushing yards this past weekend. One of them, though, was a rushing touchdown. He draws the Ravens this weekend, which I think in basically every year but this year, you'd be saying to yourself, he sure did.
Lead the Browns to victory.
Yep, the Ravens have allowed the third most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this season. On top of that, over the past 6 games, they've been especially bad. 5 out of their last 6 games, they've allowed 20-plus fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. You don't beat the Ravens on the ground. You beat them through the air. Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins missed this past game. Those are the 2 starting cornerbacks for the Ravens. If those guys are out this week, it's another good matchup for Bo Nix, who has been a very solid recent starter. I do have some matchups coming up against Kansas City that make me a bit nervous, but Bo finds himself in a good spot, is inside my top 10 for quarterbacks once again this week.
I love it. And I love that you mentioned the rushing ability, because I think that's been a sneaky skill. Not just that he's found the end zone. We know that we can all, fall into the end zone is the phrase, right? Or run into the end zone for 6, but he's also rushed for over 60, I believe, 60 rushing yards or found the end zone over his last 4 games in each game.
Yeah, he's getting the job done in that regard, that's for sure. And I think a player that can do the same thing is Drake May. He's got my attention officially. So Drake May has 2 starts under his belt that he also finished the game. 19.5 plus fantasy points in each of those 2 games. And during that 2-week stretch, he was tied for the 3rd most passing yards and the 5th most rushing yards amongst all quarterbacks. This past week, he played, a quarter against the Jets? Maybe a quarter and a half? He had nearly 12 fantasy points, including an 18-yard rushing touchdown, which I haven't checked the math, but given the fact that the Patriots are quarterbacked by Tom Brady for the past, 20 of the past 25 years, that's got to be the longest rushing touchdown, maybe ever by a Patriots quarterback. And so the big question, and I said this last week on the show, was that Drake May had a 2-week sample to show whether he is an unimpeachable top 12 quarterback the rest of the season. And the question was, can you get the job done against the Jets and also against the Titans? 2 stingy defenses.
Right.
Check against the Jets. I get it. It wasn't a full game, but in a quarter and a half, if he goes for nearly 12 fantasy points, that has my attention. He was throwing the football well. He had that 18-yard scramble for a touchdown. That counts. Obviously, we don't know this weekend against the Titans. Right. But coming out of that Titans matchup, I got to check their schedule going further. I don't know if you're pulling that up right now, Liz, or not. But I think I want to say it might be Patriots-Bears the following weekend, which is still a tough one. But yeah, he's a very talented player. I mean, we're talking about a very, very talented player. The 3rd overall pick for a reason, and a very good runner as well. That matters in our game.
It matters in fantasy football. It's interesting to me that you chose the 2 rookies, and we've talked before about my preference for streaming quarterbacks if I'm struggling. And so I went ahead and looked at the schedules of all these guys, because it's easy to get excited about Jameis and what he just did to open up the Browns. I don't love what his next week looks like. It's going up against the Chargers, and then they have a bye. So if you're thinking about using somebody immediately, I don't get excited about that. Then they have the Saints. Okay, fine. But then it's Steelers. Then Denver.
Don't like it.
Then the Steelers.
Don't like it.
And then the Chiefs. So to me, that Jameis loses the appeal right there. That's where that falls off. You mentioned Bo Nix. I got really excited about the Ravens being the next matchup. And it's not terrible. It goes against the Chiefs the following week, but at least you figured they're going to have to move the ball. The Falcons, then the Raiders before they get to Cleveland and a bye week. But you know who I like? And this pains me as a 49ers fan.
Wait, are you going to? I think we might have the same player. Go for it.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Matthew Stafford, I mean, if you thought that he was getting old and couldn't play, you have not been watching the football. He's getting older. He has been banged up, but has that ever stopped him in his life? And it was never going to be about his legs. It's about how efficiently he can run the offense. And oh, by the way, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are back.
And back in a big way.
Back in a big way. And here's their schedule. At Seattle, always hard for anyone in the NFC West, period. But then Miami, then at the Patriots, Eagles, at the Saints, then Bills, then Niners, which, by the way, we hate to admit it, but they always play us tough. But I think Matthew Stafford's schedule, combined with how he's looked, to me, if I'm looking for the most opportunity in terms of schedule weeks, I really like Stafford. But I'll go week to week on these guys. So I don't think in most 10-team leagues they're going to be taken on multiple rosters. I think you still have the opportunity to stream through these players.
You're in 2 on Stafford, huh?
Well, I actually had Bo Nix tabbed, and then Matthew Stafford as a second option. Okay. Stafford available
so we hit the
in
same
nearly
too.
80%.
See?
Yes.
Great minds.
But I like the matchup against Seattle this week in particular. I believe the early over-under is already set at 48.5, so we expect some high scoring. I'll take the over on that, by the way, with as much as Geno is throwing the ball.
I got to tell you.
No,
See
all right.
differently. I'm out on that.
Okay,
No, totally.
no,
Here's the question on Stafford is that the big thing with Matthew Stafford that we know is that there is, zero rushing here, right? Zero.
Sure.
So he has to be elite both as a yardage guy and a touchdowns guy. He is CJ Stroud with even less rushing upside than CJ Stroud, right?
Well, he has healthy receivers right now.
But even when Stroud did have healthy receivers, it was like up and down. So maybe you're going to tell me that you believe the reason why he has played so far this year is fundamentally because of the wide receivers and their health. But here are the past 6 finishes for Matthew Stafford. 5th this past week. That was great. Prior to that, out of all 32 starting quarterbacks, 31st, 21st, 32nd, 21st, 30th. Right. So it's just tough. Again, he is a great player.
Say it meaner, Field. I want you to say it meaner.
He's a great player.
He usually got flamed by Field Yates. Yeah.
Here's the thought, though, for me. I didn't want Stafford at the start of the season for all the reasons that you mentioned.
Okay.
We have a different set of circumstances now. We've got quarterbacks who are hurt.
Right.
We've got receivers who are hurt. We've got look at us talking about CJ Stroud because look at what's happening there in Jacksonville.
Daniel was actually flying to Houston for a wide receiver tryout last night.
We would have had Trevor Lawrence higher.
He doesn't have receivers either, though.
Right. So look at some of the sets of circumstances that have changed, some of the quarterbacks who've been banged up and injured. And all of a sudden, Matthew Stafford to me gives you top 20 potential.
Okay.
And if I'm just someone in need in the league, now I like Drake May a lot too, but
you're not convinced he's going to travel.
Well, I'm not convinced. I never am on this week. So again, if we're just talking about this week, then he's out for this week. And again, I'm a streamer, so I'm not looking at him for this week. But I think there's opportunities where Drake May clearly has proven himself. It's only a couple of games. I'm not sure I'm totally all in yet, but I like the potential.
Field, what about Tua? What are your thoughts on Tua? He's at Buffalo this week. That defense, as we discussed yesterday, getting healthier.
They are, yeah. I get nervous because this is a team. We've seen Tua have some big games against Buffalo, but they've seen so much of this offense.
Mm-hmm. What did you say yesterday? They haven't won against good teams.
They don't beat good teams. They just don't. It's a fundamental question.
Love to see that change. I'd love to see that narrative be able to flip. Let's get Tua back. You got the receivers to do it. Let's go.
Yeah. So I just think the Buffalo, given their proficiency against the pass, they've been so good against the pass for so long. It feels like now it doesn't matter who's playing for them. They just get the job done. So anyways, Buffalo kind of makes me nervous there. And again, a 0 with his legs as well. Was Justin Herbert on that screen or no? I can't remember.
He is on the screen. He's rostered in 40% of leagues. Also throwing much more over the past 3 games than he had previously. More balanced offense.
He's the best quarterback out of any of these.
Sure.
Right? Like we're building a team right now. However, again, same thing here. I would be more intrigued with a wide receiver ad this week. Like if they trade for somebody, which sounds like they are kicking the tires on some wideouts.
So I thought Deontay Johnson yesterday. I thought Deontay Johnson was a nice trade piece target for them. Also, really help out McConkey. I feel like on the outside.
What's interesting right now is that we felt like after the Bills traded for Amari Cooper, the Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins, and what's the third one that I'm forgetting? Obviously, forgetting a big wide receiver trade. Oh, the Jets traded for Davante Adams.
You're like such a foregone conclusion.
We didn't even
that happened years ago in my own brain. But yes, you're like, oh well. A lot of teams have kind of made their move at wide receiver. Well, now we have kind of a new market.
Right. I was just going to say, everything's changed. There's Houston.
Yeah, Houston. The Commanders are 6-2, right? Jacksonville may say, if our season's on life support. I think Deontay will be traded. I feel pretty good about that. I just don't know if it gets done today. I don't know. I think
I'm saying
LA. To where? Gotcha. LA certainly a team to monitor there. Houston, Kansas City. Those are some of the teams I have my eyes on for Deontay.
Okay. Any thoughts on Justin Herbert from you?
Oh, last thing I'll say on Herbert is last week was his first game as even a top 15 quarterback this season.
Yeah, it's never really been there for me. Love watching him play. Yeah. All the talent in the world. We know his coach loves him, but
their offense is just better.
Very effusive coach.
Yeah.
As we discussed yesterday with Fields' incredible impression. I think we're good. You don't want to give away too much. That is a wrap on our Week 9 waiver wire. Stick around, and we'll have more right after this. All right, we are back on Fantasy Focus Football. Liz Loza, Field Yates, Stephania Bell, and I think we're going to get into a little bit of our own show league here. Thank goodness Daniel Dopp is not here because
best finishers.
you're doing great. Field and I are not doing so well.
We have a weird league. We got a lot of clustered standings right now. This is the Fantasy Focus Show League, not to be confused with the Fantasy Football Now
Show League, right?
So we got
two
separate.
Faced off this past week.
No comment. Well,
no, you can comment. You beat me.
when
By
you
9
win,
points.
when you win, say little. When you lose, say less.
I love that.
But I reverse it. When you lose, say little. When you win, say less.
Okay. Well, Stephania is winning a lot.
But I didn't win this week because Kevin. Is it
A researcher got you?
Yeah. It's a Jello who
Yeah.
beat me.
Jackson, who
who
homage to Sean Tucker.
I was gonna say
That's a close
Here we go.
battle right
Here's
there.
the graphic we've been waiting
right.
for.
That's the Sean Tucker hashtag, right?
Correct. Yep.
Please,
so 131.5.
Is it please?
Yeah, please. Yeah, because his number was 44.
Right. It doesn't really look like please.
Stephania, what are you going to do about quarterback? You do like to stream, huh? You going to pick up Matthew Stafford?
I'm in the hanging on by a thread. I am going to stream this week. I have to pick somebody up. I don't have another quarterback
We need a running back there, too.
Oh, boy.
You got
I
a
guess
lot
I
of-
better read the waiver wire column.
Eric Moody has got you on the .com.
Who do I need? I'm going to look. You guys chat amongst yourselves.
Right.
I'm going to see what my
You want
team
an
is. I'm
injured
too busy
player, let me
getting
know, 'cause I got
flagged.
plenty of those.
Yeah,
No,
I think
listen.
we're both in the basement in terms of injuries. Daniel Dopp, if we can get the graphic up, beat me this week.
It's not very gentlemanly of him.
And then I gave him the day off and got to sit in this chair.
Yeah, how did that matchup go?
Listen to my team. Jordan Mason, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, they're all out this week. So
Not
while I
ideal.
sit here and pick myself up off the floor, you guys carry on.
Daniel Dopp has this incredible running back situation with Monty and Kareem Hunt. He was sneaky about that Kareem Hunt ad because I tried to do it and he
Remember
beat
that?
me to it.
It was a Monday afternoon ad.
It was indeed. And look at Daniel Dopp, the secret squirrel working the waiver wire with McMillan, Jordan Addison.
Well,
Me,
Addison
I
has
fell
done
flat
well.
on Rashad Bateman this week. And look at, I took your advice. Did you see this Jake Bobo ad? I was forced.
They didn't throw him the football enough. It's not his fault.
I flexed Jake Bobo because because I believe in your picks and your hometown heroism.
Thank you. That's a nice way of. It's a nice thought right there. I appreciate it.
Oh, the pickings are slim in our.
Yeah, it's rough.
Oh, it is.
I am about to take an L next week. So I'm just going to go ahead and wave the white flag right now. I don't even know who I play. It does not matter. I have no running back. I have, like I said, Debo is going to be out because of the bye week, and Kittle's going to be out because of the bye week.
Gotcha.
My running backs that are, I'm not even going to, I'm too embarrassed. At least I've got Darnell Mooney and Roma Dunze on my bench, but I've got Dalton Schultz, so I can fill in those. I do not have a running back. My choices, I just looked at our waiver wire. Kendra Miller. No, thank you.
Yeah.
He's
Zach Moss, who, by the way, I like Zach Moss, but the Bengals don't. So who's left?
We could talk trade. Because I only have bad players on my team, but we can definitely talk trade. I don't know what the heck happened to this team. I mean, I
started
Mine's all
off this
injured.
wrong. I
Mine is
was
all
winning.
injured.
I'm the opposite way. I started off 0-4. So on the positive side, I am 7-5 over the last 6 weeks, if I can do my math correctly.
I'm still in third.
But I lost to our guy, JB Brubaker, this past weekend, 126.8 to 111.24. Can we just laugh at my team here for a second? Look at, it's like Jordan Love gets hurt. So on my bench, just as a heads up, I've got Christian McCaffrey on the bench, T. Higgins on the bench, Juwan, because they're both hurt, obviously.
Right.
Juwan Jennings, he's out because of injury. TJ Hawkinson, my tight end, still hasn't played yet. I was hoping to have him this
You
past
get him back
week.
this week, though.
Then Jordan Love gets hurt in the middle of the game.
I know.
It's under 6 fantasy points. Michael Pittman Jr. is on a bye week this past week.
Wait, you're about to go.
He was?
Well,
Oh, wait.
No, he wasn't.
He was on a,
Wait, he was not.
Right, he was
I drafted
not.
Michael Pittman Jr.
You had me for a minute
Here's
there.
what's going to happen. You're about to go on a massive run.
Win streak.
this
Because
team-
you're getting TJ Hawkinson. You're the team that nobody sees coming, and I bet there are a bunch of leagues
everybody's
around
nervous.
that like this, right? There's how many leagues have like a TJ
That's why you gotta
Hawkinson,
stay in it. You
Christian
can't give up
McCaffrey, all that, and you're going to get all these guys back, and you're going to come. Here's me, who's in third place, started off like in first, and you and I are going to swap by the time this season's over. I'm going to be down like 9th or 10th, and you're going to win.
I want you guys
I'm
to
already
know
conceding.
that we have had some good healthy discourse over the past couple of days. I had a couple of the guys from the roster that came up to me yesterday, and they were like, Coach, like, are you sure that you can continue to play Michael Pittman over me? And I said, everything is being discussed. All right, I went very Shane
everything's on
Steichen.
the
I said,
table.
everything is on the table. We have not set any lineup decisions for week 9 as of yet. We are working through all options.
Reviewing
here.
all the options.
TJ Hawkinson, this guy's been banging on my office door every single day. Coach, I'm ready to go.
Put me in.
I've never been more ready for anything in my entire life. I'm like, TJ, I got you, man, but I got to be looking out for you and the long term of this health of this franchise, right? So Hawk and I have had some great, thoughtful conversations here.
CMC too.
Yep, talking to CMC. We've been in lockstep.
Okay.
CMC, I mean, this guy doesn't miss a
Weird.
beat. Like, and
Did
these
you give
guys.
him some of your points to get to Germany and home?
I did, yes. I told him I got a great shoulder doctor. I don't know if they can help your calves. I mean, your whatever.
Fanya's got
your
an eye guy
Achilles.
for when he's ready.
Yes, yes. So, like, don't count out Team Yater's going to Yate yet. Like, it's just don't count him out
No,
yet.
I don't. In fact, I see you coming, and I'm very afraid. I'm like, I'm at the front. I'm looking behind, looking over my shoulder, like the second half of the season. Liz, what about you?
Well, Double L
you're
is
down there
getting
with Field. Do you have any chance?
LX2. That's always my LX2. I have Travis Etienne. That's problematic.
Yeah.
DK Metcalf, which is why I started Jake Bobo on my bench, and Jameson Williams suspended. So
So
it's
yeah,
probably
so
gonna
you're
be
getting Williams back, and you'll get DK
not until
pretty
week
soon.
10.
Yeah, but that's one more week.
I will say though, what I love about my bench, and this isn't great for winning, but it is great for having a backup plan. I have Trey Benson. I know we talked waiver wire and he wasn't highlighted earlier. Still only 16% rostered. Great strength of schedule moving forward. James Conner has never had a season without missing time and has been producing.
He's been unbelievable this
That's
year.
amazing.
Like
Lots of volume,
he's like the
too.
Benjamin Buttoning of running backs
Yeah.
because he has been more productive, I think, in the last couple of years, and then this year is having an incredible, quietly just having an incredible season.
Well, I didn't say this publicly at the time, but over the summer, I took a little trip to Arizona. It was like
Is that-
112
Gave
degrees.
him a pep talk.
No, I gave him a voodoo doll of Mike Clay. And he just sits there. And before the game,
That's what I need to do.
so on Saturdays when they travel, he goes there and it's hung up right by the frame of his primary door that he leaves to get into his garage.
Okay.
And he drives a tractor because that guy, he is a tractor.
yeah.
Like, I just know this. I don't actually know this, but I do know. He drives a tractor and he goes and he takes a little push pin and he just gouges Mike's eye right before they get on the plane. And then on Sunday mornings before the game, he does the same thing.
This is
And he's
so
just
weird.
like, well, it's okay to pile
so
on, Mike.
weird.
You're allowed to do this.
I know, but like Field, you're talking about voodoo dolls. It's just not. It's not like a very. It's not what I would have imagined. A Yates this week, by the way. I wore Stephania's clothes on Sunday. I'm sitting here in the host chair on Tuesday. Field Yates is talking about voodoo dolls.
Yeah,
Where am I?
Quite a week.
Yeah.
Quite
There
a week.
has been a glitch in the matrix, but I'm happy.
Well,
to
there
be
was
here.
definitely a glitch in the matrix today because this computer needs rebooting after. I think
I got coffee for you, waiting outside after
Yes.
the show's
I'll do-
over.
I need
Stefania
it.
taught me how to use a Keurig for what it's worth. I'd never tried it before.
Oh,
I mean, I have
He's teaching me
you
all
know,
the things.
you a French press person? What are you?
I'm a tea person.
Oh, you're missing out on life. More coffee.
I have a
is good.
unique set of skills.
You have a very, very. I mean, you got a huge set of skills. You got tons. So many skills.
Well, they all require coffee, of which I've not had enough apparently.
and non-bifocal context.
Yeah, I know exactly.
So
Anyway, about your voodoo, I totally derailed.
no
you
more
from the
voodoo talk.
derailment.
Just I will say
Okay.
this: the one thing, Veterans League. If you're in it right
Yes.
now, like I would love to, and this is going to be a hard thing to do. I'm not sure that every single league is going to listen to this, but we're obviously nearly at the halfway point of the real NFL
Yes.
season. We are exactly 1 week away from being halfway through the NFL regular season in terms of weeks, which means we are more than halfway through the fantasy football regular season. If you're absolutely crushing it in the Veterans League, like you're a top 2 or 3 team, which is who's going to get into the playoffs, top 3 teams from each division, let me know. Send me a screenshot of your league at Field Yates on Twitter or whatever, however you want to do it. I want to give some love. If I find somebody
that's
who's
true.
like, whatever, 8-0 and
There
just
is a guy in my league.
8-0.
Stolen Valor, 8-0.
Respect to
Crushing it.
Stolen Valor. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. Let us know because we want to do our best to highlight some of the Veterans League standouts. So tweet at one of us, send them our way.
Yeah.
We'll give you some love on the show here.
I think that's good. I have. I'm doing terribly, which tells me how good my competitors are in the Veterans League. Like my team is
Deep
nearly-
leagues, too.
I
We
know
should mention
they're deeply.
16 teamers, I think.
I think it's 16 teams.
Mine is,
16 team. Yeah.
Yeah,
All 16
and
teams.
I'm near the bottom of the barrel. I'm a lot of active trading and such going
Really?
on. I've not been I'm at the bottom. Nobody
Any
wants to
trade.
touch my team. But I will say this: I think that the group is super engaged and very on top of their rosters and managing it. And I love it. And we should give love to the teams that are having success. It's hard to be a winning team in a 16-team league. So
Yes.
I'm with
And the
you.
waiver wire, if we were complaining about the waiver wire in the Fantasy Focus League, the waiver wire in a 16-teamer is even rougher. Speaking of the Fantasy Focus League,
Can
though,
tell
I do
you guys
want to
something
throw
on
up the
veterans?
standings.
Okay, go for it. Yeah,
Let me throw up the standings of
good,
Focus.
Good. Okay.
So that we can see where we all are. Well, Kevin Pulsifer, our researcher, is in the top spot, but still, you're still hanging on.
That's actually Jackson
That's
Agello.
Jackson
Oh, sorry,
Agello.
you're right.
We
We
were
just
talking about
discussed
the
that. Okay,
pleased.
okay.
Yeah, his.
Um,
You know why he uses that hashtag, and we think Pulse.
yes, that's
So
why.
that's why our brain goes to that.
There.
Jackson. That's
Producer.
Jackson doing these Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah.
Well, it's working on
Clearly.
on us and on his fantasy team. The producer Tyler, look at you. I don't like that avatar, but I do.
What is that? It's like an evil clown.
It's an yeah. Well,
I mean, clowns are scary. Can we agree? Clowns are scary.
Halloween's on Thursday. Clowns are scary.
So by just putting that, I think he's trying to intimidate us. And Field, I'm upset with you. How could you let Mike get ahead of you?
Again,
very upset.
Locke, we addressed it yesterday. We had a players-only meeting, so I don't know exactly what was said, but I feel good about the trajectory of this team. Just as an aside on the Veterans League,
Yeah.
I was not watching this in real time, but I think
What?
Oh.
if my math is correct,
No.
the Jaden Daniels Hail Mary was the difference in my Veterans League.
And it puts you over.
So here's the reason why I'm not totally
you
sure.
over?
Okay. Did you win?
Is obviously it's a 6-point play, right? It's a 52-yard pass plus 4, so that's 2.01 points plus 4 points for the passing touchdown.
Yeah.
The margin of victory was 4.6 points. However, what I don't know is I also had the Bears defense.
Oh.
And so the Bears go to -3.
Mm-hmm.
That may have been it may have been the Bears were at 0 prior to, I don't know the answer. The Bears may have been at 1, they may have been at 0. I don't know, but I think that probably means that I won on that Jaden Daniels Hail Mary in my math.
How are you doing? Look at this. I have, there's 2 teams. Let's see. Getting Gesicki with it, which I should win on name alone.
Yep.
Vanilla Ice Posse. They are tied for first with a record of 7-1. And then the Grooming Standards is in 3rd place at 6-2. So that's a pretty darn good record in a 16-team league.
That
This
is.
is your
Gotta shout
Veterans
out.
League?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I won't tell you where I am. It's not in the top 3. It's nowhere
I'm in
near
the top
place.
5. I'm feeling okay.
Sadly, I'm in first place, which sucks.
Oh my God. You guys
Like a
way to support the veterans. Like you guys trying to steal
I don't
their
respect the
spots in
troops,
playoffs.
apparently.
Me, I'm
No,
willing
you
to
respect them
sacrifice.
so much to be competitive.
That's correct. Yes,
That's
exactly.
right. You are leading the way and leading by example.
Jaden Daniels is really the difference. My team.
You knew to draft him.
They really want to be able to say that they beat you.
Correct.
See?
Yeah.
So what you need to do is just kind of bring it down a notch.
I do,
And,
yeah.
And let them,
Okay. I'm going to,
Roll over
well,
you
I
the
have
next
I have
couple
Stephon Diggs. That could change things on that team going forward. So it's been a lot of fun. Again, send us your screenshots if you're absolutely crushing it. Unfortunately, in this league, in my league, the second highest scoring team of the week lost to the highest scoring team of the week.
It's
So
gonna happen.
It has happened. Fantasy football in a nutshell, baby.
Do we have any final thoughts? Speaking of nutshells, anything to discuss? Anything that we're looking at next week? Little teases.
Well, all I can think of, and I'm just like, I'm on to week 10. I know we have week 9 coming up, but some of us are like thinking about Christian McCaffrey coming back. And like, I am looking forward to TJ Hawkinson returning this
That'll
week.
be
So
exciting.
that'll be, I think, boy, the Vikings, I mean, they've had a rest. I wonder what we're going to see from them now.
I hope a lot of TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, a lot of TJ Hawkinson.
All right, big stories as we conclude the Hawkinson return. I do think, obviously, the Stephon Diggs update, which will come hopefully at some point here. Deontay Johnson, is he traded this week? Usually, if you're going to make a trade the week of, you try to do it like early on in the week. So you
Is
have some
Joe
practice
Flacco
time.
going to be the starting quarterback?
Oh,
for the,
Flacco could
the
be the
Colts?
starting quarterback. Those would be the big ones that come to mind for me.
So, okay, if Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback, how do you feel about your Michael Pittman shares?
And Josh downstairs, a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That will change things.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, Pittman becomes startable with Joe Flacco. It pains me again. Nothing pains me anymore with Anthony Richardson. We've let all the pain out. It's all out there.
I'm
It's all
still
out.
pained.
It's all out there, and we are going to be all back here. Stay tuned in just a minute. All right, I think we're coming back.
We are back.
I think we're
Let's
back.
go.
I don't know if we're back.
Fantasy
All right,
Focus. Let's
we
do
are
it.
back apparently. She's riding bumpy. Okay. So we talked about Minnesota. We talked about TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Halloween.
Yeah, best Halloween costume we've ever had. Go.
Oh, I not suitable for television.
Stephania Bell.
wow.
I just raided your closet, and I can confirm. How about that?
We have to go in the Wayback Machine for that.
All right.
Really, my focus now is on what is my dog going to be for Halloween. That is really where. my
So last year I was a pink Power Ranger because my daughter asked me to be a pink Power Ranger with her.
That's a good.
That costume got a lot of attention. And this year I am going to be a black cat because she's going to be a witch. But I am going to be, we have Thursday night football. So it's kind of the same. We're going to be watching on our phones as we're trick-or-treating, maybe having some adult
That's right.
beverages
You
in
have
the
to
Stanley.
do that in the West Coast because out here you can get the trick or treating done.
Oh, yeah.
Before, and I expect you to power through trick or treating before Thursday night.
Oh my goodness, you kidding me? Like,
yours
it'd be
are little. You're
3:45.
definitely gonna-
People are like knocking on doors. People are like, excuse me, I'm on a Zoom right now. What do you need, kid?
What's the whole family going as?
I can't say it yet because I'm wearing my costume to Thursday.
I know what the
that's
girls
right.
are, though.
Yes,
So
they're
that's-
very, very
That
cute.
does tie into mine as well. My best Halloween costume ever. I was a lobster as a kid one time, and I love that costume. I want to bring that back somehow.
Shocking in New England.
Yeah.
All right, well, I will just say this. The matchup that I think that will be the spookiest is Indianapolis Colts at Minnesota, given all we just discussed. Lots of question marks.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us on Fantasy Focus Football. I am
job,
Liz
Liz
Loza,
Loza.
Field Yates, Stephania Bell, and brought to us by our friends at Boost Mobile. Thanks so much for watching. Daniel will be back tomorrow.
Or will he?